Hey guys, it's Katie, and I'm here today to bring you my very first original book tag called Memory Book Tag. I was inspired to do this a couple of months ago when all of a sudden I was just hit by this really strong memory from my childhood, and it had to do with books and the place that I was in and the people I was with, and all of a sudden I was inspired to create a book tag surrounding memories and specific events or things that could have gone on in your life. And I've structured the questions in the best way that I possibly can. I really wanted them to be in a specific way, and I think I got them to where I want them. And I just decided that if I didn't do it now, I never would. So here we are, and I am really excited to present you guys with this tag. So just a little bit of background into me first. For those of you who don't know, I have an undiagnosed condition called hyperthymesia. And so that means I just get hit by a slew of memories all the time. I have no control over what happens or when it happens, kind of a situation. And I'll actually give you a link of the Wikipedia page about it down below, because there's actually not too much research out there about it because it's not a very common condition. But that's another reason I was kind of prompted to do this. It was just a nice mix of, having all these vivid memories at once, and then learning a little bit more about this through a class I was kind of taking at the time, through just some of my own reflection and things like that. So that's kind of the birth of this tag, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's just launch right on in to the questions. Number 1, early years. What's the first book you can remember reading by yourself? The Magic School Bus, The Human Body. I distinctly remember being in the Cayman Islands in our condo. My mom was in the room, and I just read this book to her out of the blue all of a sudden. And then when I got back from there, went back to school, I brought that book in and I did like a show and tell kind of a thing for it because I was just super excited about it. So yeah, that's definitely the first book that I remember reading. And funnily enough, that specific memory is the one that prompted me to create this tag in the first place. So of course, it needed to be a question. Number 2, school. A book you had to read for school that you have strong memories about. For this, it's the Iliad and the Odyssey. And yes, I'm including both because I have strong memories associated with both of them from school. I'll never forget, freshman year of high school, I read the Odyssey, and I was literally the only student that liked that book, which was it just boggled my mind. But I'll never forget reading it because it really introduced me more in depth than as a kid into classics and ancient history and all of this stuff. And I just remember loving it, the imagery, the story, all the different creatures and things that Odysseus encounters on his journey. I just loved it. And I will never, ever forget going to class and having all of these conversations and being just really, really into it. Whereas the Iliad, I read my sophomore year of high school, and that's I was a little bit familiar with Homer's writing style at that point, but it was such a different story, and I really, really enjoyed it because it was looking at the characters in this book. It was a lot more of a character study than the Odyssey was, and I just really remember liking the themes, and in particular the death scene of Patroclus, the death scene of Achilles, because it was just comparing them and contrasting them to everything. I really like ancient death scenes for some reason. I just think they're fascinating. And so that just definitely really stuck out in my mind as an important memory. Number 3, family. Talk about a book you remember reading with your parents. So I've read a lot of books with my parents over the years, but one memory I have in particular was reading The Goblet of Fire with my mom, because I read the first 4 Harry Potter books with my mom at night before bedtime. And one of the most vivid memories I have is reading The Goblet of Fire, especially, I believe it was chapter 16. Chapter 16, titled The Goblet of Fire. I just vividly remember reading that particular chapter when I was in my bedroom, sitting on my mom's lap. We were in the rocking chair, and she was reading that chapter to me. And I know for a fact that I fell asleep, because when she put me into bed, I remember waking up being like, oh, like, can we keep going? And she's like, no, you're falling asleep. Let's continue going to sleep. And it was just right in the middle of the chapter, right after Harry's name was picked out. I mean, how can you fall asleep at that part? It was fine. But I just absolutely 100% have just such a vivid memory of reading this book with my mom. Number 4, midnight. Talk about a book you remember staying up late to read or finish. So because I read a lot of books at night, I often stay up late to read them and things. So I mean, what one person's definition of late is another person's early. So like 11 midnight is like pretty early for me most of the time. I'm working on changing that. I am. Yes. But I will never forget staying up until 3 in the morning to finish OMG Check Please. I found the webcomic. People were talking about it on Tumblr because, hi, I live there a lot. And I was like, what's this all about? And so I asked a couple of people, I asked around and did a little bit of research. I was like, oh, this sounds kind of interesting. And, comics and web series are just generally not something that I look into or gravitate towards. But after talking to all those people, I was like, yeah, cool, I'll check it out. And someone sent me the beginning link, and I went there, and I started reading. And that was probably at, I think, like 10 o'clock at night. And then I just read till 3. And I was like, cool. I literally spent my entire night reading all of the updates that there were, like from the very beginning all the way up to the current update at the time. And I have 0 regrets about doing that. It was the best life decision. But yeah, that's probably the latest I've stayed up to read a book. Number 5. Holiday. Talk about a bookish memory from the holidays. So, if you guys haven't seen the video that I did last Christmas about my, Christmas traditions that I do, and kind of, I think there were more bookish Christmas traditions. I'll link that up in the thing. But one in particular memory that I have is, every year after dinner, and after we get back from church and everything, my grandma and I would sit downstairs on the couch, and I would bring out the entire Christmas book box that I had, and we would work our way through each and every book in a specific order of my choosing, obviously, and we would go through them until it was time for me to go to sleep, or until she got tired, because she usually goes to bed before me, which is 100% fine. But one book that I always look forward to, there are a lot of books that I look forward to reading every single year, but one book in particular that I look forward to reading every single year is The Christmas Miracle of Jonathan Toomey. And I love the pictures in that book. I love the memories that I have associated with that book. I love the overall message of it. It's just such a good book. And as I said, I love reading it. Every single year I look forward to reading it. And like there are specific pictures that I always have to stare at every single year. I love Thomas eating his, what is it, raisin scone, raisin biscuit. Just, I can vividly picture and audibly hear what the smacking sounds are like, and just tasting the sweetness and the buttery flakiness of the biscuit. Like, it's just lovely, and I love it, and just it elicits a lot of emotions in me, and it's just beautiful. Absolutely a gorgeous story, and it's got the most beautiful illustrations in it. If you guys haven't read it or have never heard of it, I'd highly, highly recommend picking it up this holiday season. Number 6, passion. Talk about a book that helps shape you, such as put you on a specific career path or got you into an area that you enjoy, something along those lines. And for that, I am picking The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. For those of you that have been following my channel for a while, you know that this is probably my favorite book. I just have so many dear memories associated with it. I read it for the first time when I was in 4th grade, I think. I listened to it on audio, and I often fell asleep because it wasn't just, I just don't like audiobooks. They bore me. I can't just listen. Then I read it again in 5th grade, and I fell madly in love with it, and it actually helped put me on the path of going into a specific area of history that I really, really enjoy, and that is Middle Ages or a medieval period. I mean, you know, I love ancient things too, and that is attributed to the Iliad and the Odyssey, but in terms of medieval things, The Hobbit helped put me on that path. And ultimately, I ended up writing a research paper about it in 6th grade. And then, as I said, I majored in it again in college. Tolkien was first and foremost a classicist and a professor. And just through his world and his writing, it just really put me on to loving linguistics and language and history and fantasy, and just it really shaped my life in more ways than just the one. But I did promise one day that I would bring out my 6th grade Middle Ages paper that I had on my shelf, and I have it right here. I figured this is the best time for me to show it to you guys. So first of all, take a look at that lovely little cover and my handwriting, which is just spectacular. And I'll just show you guys real quick. So I got this random pictures on the inside. I don't even know, guys. And you ready for it? You ready for it? This is 6th grade Katie's handwriting on this beautiful paper. Yeah, it's great. I'm not going to read you the report because it's long and detailed, but some things that you can expect to see in here if I ever decide to do a separate video. After the introduction, you have things about castles and fighting, and then you have things about moats and food, clothes, medicine, and then you have the conclusion and a bibliography, because I was that kid. And then on the back, you have this lovely map. But the thing that also goes along with this lovely report is, have I ever told you about my castle? Because that is another thing that helped shape me going into medievally things. So, along with the report, I built a castle, and it took me 7 months to build. Yay! It was made out of that, like, styrofoam stuff. It required an X-Acto knife. There was a lot of clay and a lot of glue. And it was going to be, like, super historically accurate. I had 2 friends that were going to help me. One with the historically accurate aspect of it, and the other with the help me construct it aspect. It was just going to be absolutely epic. And as I said, it took me 7 months to build, but it was, like, huge. And then I had to store it in the janitor's closet. And I literally put a sign on it, do not touch. I literally put a sign, do not touch. And then what ended up happening is the day I was getting ready to present my report, like everyone in the class knew that I was building this castle. Like my teachers and all the students, the entire school basically knew I was building this. So anyway, the day I was getting ready to present, I enlisted a friend to come to the janitor's closet with me and get the castle. Well, we got there and it wasn't there. I was like, okay, where did it go? And so here I am wandering around all of school and I still can't find it. And then, just on a gut reaction, kind of a kick, for kicks and giggles, I decided to check the dumpster. And here comes the best part. I open the dumpster and the castle is inside, completely destroyed. All that's left in the place where I left it is a person I created. So, I mean, the irony of it is the castle ended up in ruins, like most of them do. So, I mean, it's fine. I'm still a little bitter about it. I still did my presentation, and was I crying? No, I actually wasn't. I think I was just beyond tears at that point. I was just like, yeah, I was just screaming inside. Because I spent so long on it and I worked so hard on it, and then it ended up in ruins. So when I went to college and majored in medieval studies, there was a reason for it. Not only because of our dear friend J.R.R. Tolkien, but because of that presentation and me building the castle. And as one of my professors aptly put it, you are majoring in this so you can recreate the castle. And I'm like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So, yeah, I have very strong memories associated with The Hobbit and just that time of my life. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. And that is a book, as I said, that has greatly, greatly impacted my life. Number 7. Travel. A book you read on a vacation or on a trip that brings up fond memories. For that, because I travel a lot and I read a lot when I travel, there are a lot of books that fit that description, but for this particular question, I'm going to pick Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. I read that book when I was in Italy the first time with my parents. I finished it when we were in Chianti, within like the first 5 days or so of us being there. And then a couple of days later, we ended up going to Rome. And for those of you who don't know, that entire book takes place in Rome. And so what we did was one day out of our, I think, 5 days that we spent in Rome, we literally went to all of the chapels, visited all of the fountains, and just ran around to all of the sites that took place in Rome that were in that book. And it was so much fun. I loved every second of that day. My dad, I think, finished the book while we were in Rome. My mom started it. So, I mean, she didn't know everything that we'd read about at that point, but it was just so much fun for me and my dad and kind of my mom to just run around to all of these sites and look at all the things. And just on the record, Bernini is one of my absolute favorite artists of all time. And so that just made it even better because, the main artist that is featured in that book is Bernini. And as I said, we went to the 4 fountains and we went to all of the different chapels and things, and all of them featured Bernini artwork. And it was just so much fun. Number 8. Hideaway. Discuss one of your favorite places to read and why it's one of your favorites. So this one I kind of just put in here for fun. Definitely one of my favorite places to read is my bedroom, where I'm at right now, because it's cozy and it's just so fun and atmospheric. However, I also love reading downstairs in our family room on the couch because one, it has such good lighting. Like I love natural lighting. I don't like putting on artificial lights and things. It ruins my life. And I just particularly like reading down there in the winter because I like to watch the snow fall out in our backyard, and just we have a fireplace going. It's just such a lovely place to read. So yeah, out of those two places, my bedroom and then downstairs in the family room, are definitely among my favorites. Number 9, life changes. Name a book that helps you with a big life change, such as going to college or dealing with a bad breakup, etc. And for this, I'm picking In the Heart of All Worlds, The She by Charlotte Ashe. You guys have probably heard me talk about it on my channel at some point or another because I talk about it from time to time. But that book, before it was a book, was a fanfic. Yeah, it was one of those. But and so it came out in 2011. Well, it was completed in 2011. And I read it right before I went to college. And then after any time that I was having a bad day, or just something bad was happening at that point, I would pull it out and I'd read it. And then now that it's in physical book form, in actual book form, I do the same thing. I pick it up when I'm having a bad day or I'm just going through a really tough time. Now there are other books out there or other things out there for me to read, but I definitely have read that story over and over again, and now it's just become associated with a lot of big life changes, I guess you can say. Because as I said, I read it literally, well, again, not for the first time, but again, right after I left for college. I just needed something familiar and something just that I really, really enjoyed. And at that point, it was that story. And then I read it again after a big friendship shift in college. I read that story over and over again throughout college. I read it when I was in Florence and I was going through a rough time with we'll call him my then boyfriend. And just that whole thing blew up once I got back stateside, and it was just a lot. So that story has been through a lot with me, through thick and thin. And so while that story holds very, very dear and important and just good memories for me, I know that book is not for everyone because of the content and how it's written and everything. I have a lot of really, really strong memories associated with that book. And number 10, discuss 3 books or series that imprinted on your soul and impacted you in many ways. So the first series that, of course, 100% impacted me in many, many ways, and I'll never forget for as long as I live, is Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. I grew up with this series. The last movie came out when my childhood ended, which was in 2011. It was right before I came to college. So this series has impacted me and my love of reading and fantasy and just British things in general forever. I will forever love this series. Despite everything that is surrounding it, I don't care. Just these books and this series is super important to me. Second series that I'm going to talk about is the Magic Tree House books by Mary Pope Osborne. I read those books at a time when I definitely needed them. I read them around the same time as the Lord of the Rings the first time, but I think at that point in my life, the Magic Tree House had more of an impact. I was just going through a very, very rough time. I was incredibly sick that year of my life. And so I was home a lot. And I mean a lot. And so my parents would often keep me occupied by bringing me books. I mean, I also watched some TV, but I often got bored. So they would bring me books. And they usually ended up being the Magic Tree House books. And I would devour them. And then I would talk to them about what I'd read. And I just had such a good time reading that series. It was just such a good thing to do to keep me occupied at such a really difficult time, while also nourishing my burgeoning love for history at the time. And last but not least, you know this is coming. You know it's coming. It's here. So, The Realm of the Elderlings is definitely a book that has imprinted on my soul and will stick with me for the rest of my life. Fitz and his shenanigans and the Fool and just all of the characters that we've met throughout this series are so incredibly important to me. Not only did I read this right after I got out of college, and so I was just kind of like, buddy, what is my life? But also, I spent a large chunk of my law school career with Fitz and with the Vestrits and the people from the Rain Wilds and just everybody. This series has had some of the biggest impact on my adult life that I just never thought was possible. Like, Harry Potter shaped my childhood. Realm of the Elderlings is shaping my early adulthood. I just can't express what this series means to me as just overall. Not only has this book helped me with understanding very, very difficult and harsh topics, but it's helped me kind of come to better terms with my identity as a person and things that I value, and I don't even know. As I said, I cannot verbally express what this series means to me. It's so incredibly important to me, and it's been through a lot with me. And I found a lot of good friends in the BookTube community through this series too. So I mean, it's just had such a big impact on my life, and it is just my everything. My everything. So, of course, I'm going to tag 500 people down in the description. I don't necessarily want to say who I'm going to tag here because it's probably going to be a fairly long list. So just check down in the description and see if you're tagged or not. And I'll also tag people on Twitter as well. So just to make sure people don't miss anything. But yeah, that's my original tag, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I definitely had a lot of fun making it, and it definitely was an experience getting me to think about everything and talking about all these memories and sharing this story with you guys. But anyway, yeah, I'm proud of this, and I hope you guys enjoy it if you choose to do it. And of course, make sure you come back and link your video in the description or on social media if you have that option. And yeah, that's about all I've got for you today. So feel free to like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media. I have a Twitter and a Goodreads, which of course are always linked below. And I have other social media sites upon request if you'd like. And then I will come back with another video for you guys again soon. Okay, bye!